Alright, stop scrolling for just 1 second. Because what I'm about to show you is going to completely flip the way you've been thinking about this whole Caitlin Clark situation. There's a clip going around right now. You've probably already seen it. And if you haven't, trust me, you're about to hear about it everywhere. The clip shows Caitlin Clark in what looks like the Team USA locker room, head down, not talking to anyone, while her teammates are laughing and joking around like they're at a family reunion. And the internet lost its mind. She's isolated. There's a massive rift. Clark doesn't fit in with the team. She's toxic. She's the problem. That narrative spread faster than the actual clip itself. But here's what nobody, and I mean nobody in mainstream sports media is stopping to actually ask. How is the so-called isolated player leading the entire Team USA roster in scoring assists and efficiency at the same time? How is the player who supposedly doesn't fit in pulling 34% of the fan vote in the MVP poll? And how, somebody please explain this to me? How is the player who is statistically the best performer in this entire tournament only getting one start? One single start. That's the question. That's the real story here. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today, piece by piece, number by number, because the data tells a completely different story than the narrative you've been fed. If you stay until the end of this video, here's what you're going to walk away with. First, the one number hiding in the box score that completely destroys the bad teammate narrative. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Second, why the clip that broke the internet wasn't even about Caitlin Clark to begin with, and what that tells us about how her story keeps getting written by other people. And third, the real reason why what's happening to Clark right now is so much bigger than basketball. So much bigger than a locker room clip or a starting lineup decision. Quick note before we get into it. Everything you're about to hear comes from publicly available information, verified reports, and actual data analysis from this tournament. This channel has no affiliation with Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, or the WNBA. We're not here to be fans or critics. We're here to do one thing, look at what the numbers actually say, and stop letting a 30-second clip do all the talking. All opinions are for informational and entertainment purposes. We respect every player in this conversation. Now let's go. Let's start with the clip itself. Because before you can understand why the narrative is wrong, you need to understand where it came from. And when you find out, I promise you it's going to reframe everything. That viral locker room footage? It wasn't filmed to be about Caitlin Clark. The original video was made to hype up Paige Bueckers. The camera was moving through the locker room to capture Paige, to showcase her energy, her personality, her presence on the team. And as the camera panned across the room, it passed over Clark. That's it. A background moment. A split-second shot of Clark sitting there head down, not engaging with the group. And from that, from one background shot in someone else's highlight reel, an entire narrative was constructed. Emotional shutdown. Total isolation. The tension in that locker room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Come on. But here's the part that really got me. And this is the part that the people pushing this narrative conveniently never mentioned. If you actually watch that clip carefully, and I'm talking really watch it, not just react to it, Clark is not the only person in that frame with their head down and not engaging. There are 2, maybe 3 other players doing the exact same thing. Phones out, looking down in their own world before a game. Nobody wrote articles about them. Nobody called them isolated. Nobody suggested they had a deep-seated problem with their teammates. Only Clark. And the question that should be burning in your brain right now is why? Why does the same behavior read as focus on one player and emotional shutdown on another? Why does looking at your phone before a game become a 5-minute controversy segment when it's Clark doing it? And you know what's wild? The regular people watching that clip, not the media personalities, not the analysts with the hot takes, the fans in the comment section actually figured this out. I'm not making this up. The most upvoted comments on that original video were things like, "There are 3 other people doing the exact same thing, why is only Clark being called out?" And "She's probably reading the playbook, this is clickbait." And my personal favorite, "Put Jordan Bird or Magic in that same shot, sitting quietly before a game, and you'd call it legendary focus. Put Clark there, and suddenly it's a crisis." The regular fans saw through it immediately. But the narrative kept spreading anyway. And that tells you something really important about how Clark's story keeps getting told, and by who. Now let's talk about the numbers. Because this is where the story gets genuinely fascinating and, honestly, a little infuriating if you care at all about fairness. At the FIBA Americas qualifier in San Juan, Puerto Rico here is what Caitlin Clark has been doing on the basketball court. 12.8 points per game. That is the highest scoring average on the entire Team USA roster. Not second highest. Not tied for first. The highest. 6.3 assists per game. Again, highest on the team, by a significant margin. Efficiency rating of 15. The single highest number on the entire roster. Every single player on that team, and this is a roster full of elite WNBA talent. Clark's efficiency number sits above all of them. She is shooting 59% from the field, 41% from behind the three-point line. She has been the primary engine behind blowout victories over Senegal, Puerto Rico, Italy, and New Zealand. Team USA didn't just win those games, they dominated. And Clark was the reason why. Now hold all of that in your head. Hold all of those numbers, the scoring, the assists, the efficiency, the shooting percentages, the wins. And now I'm going to tell you something that when you put it next to those numbers, genuinely should make you stop and sit with it for a moment. She has been given one start. One. In the entire tournament. I don't care what sport you follow. I don't care if you're a casual fan or someone who watches every single game. In any sport, football, baseball, soccer, it doesn't matter if you're highest scorer, your highest assist player, your highest efficiency player. The person leading your team to blowout wins is only getting one start. That is a decision that requires an explanation. Not from the fans, not from the media, from the coaching staff, a real public, on-the-record explanation. But that explanation has not come. And here's the thing that really breaks the bad teammate narrative completely. I want you to think about what 6.3 assists per game actually means. An assist happens when you see your teammate in a better position than you are, and instead of taking the shot yourself, you give them the ball to score. An assist is a selfless act by definition. You are actively choosing your teammate over your own statistics. 6.3 times per game, Caitlin Clark is making that choice. 6.3 times per game, the player who is supposedly isolating herself and not engaging with the team is looking at her teammates, reading their position, and putting the ball exactly where they need it to score. You cannot lead a team in assists and be checked out from the team at the same time. That is physically, tactically, logically impossible. The assists number alone should have ended this entire conversation, but it didn't. Because the conversation was never really about assists, was it? Now I want to talk about something that I think is actually more revealing than the clip, more revealing than the starting lineup, and more revealing than anything we've discussed so far. Since this tournament began, Caitlin Clark has not once sat down at the media podium after a game. Not once. Every post-game press availability, the moments when players sit in front of the microphones and cameras and talk about what just happened on the court, Clark has been absent from all of them. Now think about who has been at those podiums. Paige Bueckers has been there consistently. Paige is giving long, thoughtful, well-crafted answers. She's talking about team chemistry. She's talking about the relationships being built. She's talking about unselfishness and everyone sacrificing for a bigger purpose. She's talking about the honor of putting on the USA uniform. Beautiful answers. And I genuinely believe she means every word. But let me ask you something. The player leading the tournament in scoring assists and efficiency, the player that 34% of fans are voting for as MVP, why has that player not spoken a single word to the media in this entire tournament? There are two ways to read this. The first is that it's Clark's choice. She doesn't want to talk to the press. And if that's her decision, that is completely her right as an athlete. The second way to read it is that this is not entirely her choice. That somewhere in the organizational structure of Team USA basketball, a decision has been made about who represents this team publicly, who gets the microphone, whose face becomes the face of the program. And when you put those two realities side by side, the player with the best numbers has no public voice, while the player with prominent media access is consistently framing the team's identity that is not just a personality difference. That is a story about who gets to tell their own story. And here's the consequence of that gap. When fans want to hear from Clark, and trust me, they desperately do, there is nothing to hear. No quotes, no reflections, no direct words from her about what it feels like to be performing at this level, to be carrying this team, to be proving people wrong after everything that happened in 2024. So what fills that silence? Clips, narratives, 30-second videos that get spun into proof of internal rifts. The absence of Clark's voice is not just a missed opportunity. It is actively creating the conditions for every bad narrative to thrive. And whether that absence is by choice or by design, the effect is the same. Now I have to talk about 2024, because you cannot fully understand what is happening here without going back to the Olympics. Last year, Caitlin Clark was left off the United States Olympic basketball team. That decision created one of the most intense debates in the history of American women's sports. Millions of people were furious. The arguments went on for months. And the primary justification from those who defended the decision came down to this: Clark wasn't ready for the international game. FIBA style is too physical, too different, too demanding. She needed more time to develop before she could compete at that level. Now here we are, at a FIBA tournament. The exact style of play they said she couldn't handle. 59% shooting from the field, 41% from three, leading the team in every major statistical category, powering blowout wins against international competition. Every single reason that was given to justify leaving her off that Olympic roster, she has systematically dismantled every one of them with her performance at this tournament. And I want to be really clear about something here, because I think this part gets lost in the noise. This is not just about the numbers being good. It is about what the numbers prove. An efficiency rating of 15 in FIBA play is not a normal number. FIBA basketball is more physical. The defensive rotations are different. The spacing is different. The pace is different. Players who dominate in the WNBA often need significant adjustment time before they can produce at a high level internationally. The fact that Clark came into this environment and immediately posted the highest efficiency number on the roster, that is not luck. That is not hype. That is basketball excellence adapting in real time. And here's what makes it even more remarkable. Remember those 6.3 assists per game. In a FIBA setting, she is playing alongside teammates. She doesn't share day-to-day practice chemistry in the same way she does with her Indiana Fever squad. The spacing is different. The offensive reads are different. The combinations are different. And yet, she is finding her teammates. She is reading the defense. She is making the right pass at the right moment over and over again. That is elite basketball IQ. That is the kind of playmaking that you cannot fake with athleticism or shooting ability. You either see the game at that level or you don't. And Clark absolutely does. So let's put the whole picture together now. We have a player who is leading this tournament statistically in every meaningful category. We have a player who is proving wrong every criticism that was used to justify her Olympic exclusion. We have a player who is carrying her team to dominant wins while receiving one start in the entire tournament. We have a player who has been completely absent from the media presence of her own team despite being the best performer. And we have a viral clip built on a background shot from someone else's video that became the defining public narrative about her time at this tournament. That is the full picture. And when you lay it all out like that, the conversation stops being about one clip or one locker room moment or even one coaching decision. it becomes a question about something much bigger. Here is the thing I keep coming back to when I think about Caitlin Clark. She hasn't said a word about any of this. Not about the starting lineup, not about the podium appearances or the lack of them, not about the clip, not about the narrative, not about the Olympic snub that she has spent this entire tournament answering without ever once opening her mouth to answer it. She just plays every single game. She walks onto that court and she produces 12.8 points, 6.3 assists, efficiency of 15, 59% from the field. And then she goes back to whatever it is she does when the cameras aren't constructing a story around her silence. And I think there is something genuinely powerful in that. Not in a motivational poster kind of way, in a real practical, this actually works kind of way. Because here's what the situation around Clark teaches us. And I don't just mean for basketball fans, I mean for anyone watching this video. When you are in an environment where the narrative about you feels like it's being written by everyone, but you, when your behavior gets reframed, when your results get minimized, when the story keeps shifting, no matter what you do, the most powerful thing you can do is make your results impossible to ignore. Clark didn't win the argument about whether she should have been on the Olympic team by giving interviews. She won it by posting an efficiency rating of 15 in the exact environment they said she couldn't handle. She didn't defend herself against the bad teammate narrative by calling a press conference. She answered it with 6.3 assists per game. In a world where a 30-second clip can generate 5 days of controversy, the only argument that actually sticks is one that gets harder to dismiss every single time you step on the court. Clark isn't silent because she's weak or checked out or indifferent. She's playing the longest game, the one where the score at the end is the only number that matters. And that is not just a basketball lesson. That's a blueprint for anyone who has ever been really good at what they do and still felt like the system around them wasn't quite ready to acknowledge it. You don't argue, you don't explain. You just keep making the numbers so undeniable that eventually even the people writing the narrative have to stop and look at it. All right, I want to hear from you on this. If Caitlin Clark has ever given you one of those moments, a shot, a pass, a play, that made you genuinely jump up out of your seat, drop a basketball emoji in the comments right now. Let's see how many people are actually riding with her through all of this. And I want your real take on the bigger question here. Do you think Caitlin Clark is being treated fairly by the coaching staff, by the media, and by the people around her in that locker room? Drop your honest opinion below. Doesn't matter if you agree with everything I said in this video or if you think I'm completely off base. We read every single comment and we don't delete opinions. If you've got a different perspective, bring it. That's what makes this conversation worth having. Because here's the thing. This story doesn't just need Clark's fans to be loud about it. It needs everyone's supporters and skeptics both asking the right question. And the right question isn't whether she looked happy enough in a background shot of someone else's locker room video. The right question is this: when the best performer on your team is consistently absent from the spotlight that their performance has earned, what are we actually watching? And what does it say about the system doing the watching? Every comment you drop pushes this video to more sports fans who deserve to hear the full story. Not the headline, not the 30-second clip, the full picture. So if you think that matters, make some noise right now. Now you know the real story behind what's been happening with Caitlin Clark at this tournament. You've seen the numbers that the narrative tried to bury. You understand why that clip doesn't mean what everyone said it means. And you've seen why what's happening here is genuinely bigger than one tournament or one starting lineup decision. But here's what I haven't told you yet. There is another player whose story inside this same conversation makes everything we just talked about look like the opening act. A completely different angle, a completely different kind of pressure, but a story that connects directly to everything Clark is going through right now. I already made that video, and it is sitting right there on your screen. Trust me on this one. You do not want to miss it.